Y nuestros colegas de la SICA, muy buenos días a todos, bienvenidos a casa. Ya estamos para empezar, ya estamos algo atrasados, así que con eso... Distinguished heads of state and government, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, CARICOM Secretary General Ms. Carla Barnett, ministers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Buenos días a todos. Bienvenido a Belize. Welcome to Belize. We are honored to convene the fourth CARICOM SICA Summit here in San Pedro, Hamburgues Key. Bienvenidos a nuestros compañeros del SICA que nos acompañan esta mañana. Erika, gusto en verte ahí. Señor Presidente Yamate y a todos, por favor. Carlos, muy alegre para tenerlos acá en Belize. Again, welcome to our CARICOM leaders who've been here for the past 2 days. You've been working very hard, and I thank you once again for cooperating according to Prime Minister Motley that we finished in record time yesterday. And we're also truly honored to be joined virtually by His Excellency Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations. Your Excellency, we fully understand that the situation in Ukraine, which is worrying all of us, has prevented you from physically joining us in Belize as originally planned. Still, we are grateful that you are able to engage us virtually. The last time the heads of the two sub-regions met in Salvador was more than a decade ago. Then heads made a solid commitment to strengthen cooperation and engagement in areas of mutual interest that were integral to our development. The fact is, our efforts has been less than satisfactory considering the common plight we face and the many opportunities for collaboration which we missed. This must now change. Clearly, much has happened in the world since 2011. The global and regional landscape has changed significantly. Our partnership, therefore, must be strategic. It must deliver more for the peoples of our shared neighborhood. As nations, we are clawing our way back from a severe economic downturn occasioned by a devastating COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic exposed the fragility of the development gains many of our countries have made. Too many of our citizens have been pushed into poverty, are facing hunger, or have lost the opportunity for an education. Too many of our citizens have lost all their lives or their livelihoods, with implications for social cohesion. Belize has had the privilege to participate in integration systems of both CARICOM and SICA. Our dual membership has allowed us a unique vantage point from which we see two groups of developing countries coexisting in the middle of the Americas. We know that CARICOM and SICA both share an abiding aspiration to achieve their sustainable development. We know that countries of both sub-regions share a steadfast commitment to multilateralism. We know that countries of both regions are dedicated to democratic governance, to the rule of law, and respect for human rights. We know also that both regions are facing similar challenges which threaten to retard our development. Challenges such as human insecurity, climate change, mitigation, and the COVID-19 pandemic are common throughout both CARICOM and Central American nations. And we also know that both regions depend heavily on the multilateral system to deliver effective coordination and responses to the global challenges which are having impacts on our sub-regions. Without question, the case for a closer partnership between CARICOM and SICA is compelling and urgent. But achieving a functional partnership has so far eluded us. We're equally aware that we live in a neighborhood that is subject to tremendous influence in an era of heightened geopolitical competition. Our shared historical experience teaches us that such geopolitical competition can yet divide us and undermine our development. This must not be allowed to happen. Together we must navigate a path that is grounded in our shared values, promotes the common interest of our people, and operates strategically and independently on the world stage. No puede ser que el idioma o la cultura o nuestras diferentes etapas de desarrollo constituyan obstáculos para lograr una alianza más fuerte. Seguramente no puede ser, ya que ambas subregiones han construido relaciones sólidas con otros países, organizaciones o agrupaciones en lugares más lejanos, con los que no compartimos lenguas, culturas o sistemas de gobierno comunes. Colegas, para construir la confianza mutua, que es el componente esencial para cualquier alianza o asociación efectiva, necesitamos conocernos y entendernos mejor. Y creo que Belice puede desempeñar un papel fundamental para facilitar este entendimiento más profundo. Creemos que tenemos el deber de hacerlo. For example, it is important for Central America to understand that vulnerability means what vulnerability means for the Caribbean. For SIDS, our vulnerability arises from structural factors, including size, remoteness, limited resource base, market size, exposure to climate risk and natural disasters, which constrain our ability to achieve sustainable development. Likewise, it is important for the Caribbean to understand the profound socioeconomic impacts of climate change and natural disasters on Central American societies, which already suffer deep inequalities. Those impacts have included serious citizen insecurity and unprecedented migrant flows. Together, our subregions have a population of 60 million, a collective GDP of nearly $400 billion. The possibilities for intra-regional trade are clear. The opportunities for cross-regional investments are obvious. For sure, if we want it to be so, a common future awaits us. Let's grasp it now, today. The longer we delay the effective activation of our partnership, we miss valuable opportunities to fully realize our development and to protect and enhance our shared neighborhoods. Our foreign ministers have revised our CARICOM-SICA plan of action, a coherent and achievable program of work to ensure that our cooperation is relevant to the current circumstances and contributes to our sustainable economic recovery. Importantly, we have also agreed to a follow-up mechanism to ensure implementation and continuity. Effectively implementing our agreed plan of action will build confidence and trust in our partnership. Nuestro plan de acción debe ser un modelo de cooperación sur-sur entre grupos vecinos de países en desarrollo. Of course, the scale of the crisis we are facing, whether climate change, the COVID-19 pandemic, migration, unsustainable debt levels, or transnational organized crime, cannot be solved by either sub-regions alone or together. These challenges are global in scope, but have serious regional ramifications for which we lack the resources and capacity to overcome. Our sub-regions are heavily dependent on international cooperation and upon the multilateral system at a time when global governance is under severe strain. Our challenges are systemic and structural. These challenges require urgent attention and solutions. The international financial system, as presently operated, denies funding to the countries that need grants and concessional financing the most. Countries like ours. The G20's efforts to advance reform of the global financial system, including the inevitable phasing out of fossil fuels, has been lackluster. Developed countries have failed to provide sufficient climate finance to countries like ours that need it most. Many of our countries struggled to access COVID-19 vaccines despite a plethora of pledges to make vaccines available. Even in this state of fragmentation, there is no substitute for multilateralism, especially for nations like ours. So we count on you, Mr. Secretary General, on your leadership to reform, renew, and revitalize the UN system and wider multilateral system. And I assure you that you can count on our support for realizing our common agenda. Excelencias, señoras y señores, me complace mucho que hayamos convocado esta tan esperada cuarta cumbre de CARICOM y SICA. Realmente creo que su presencia aquí, demuestra un compromiso con una asociación CARICOM-SICA fuerte y mutuamente beneficiosa. Ladies and gentlemen, heads, friends, I look forward to fruitful deliberations. Muchísimas gracias. Le pido la palabra del presidente de Costa Rica, Carlos Alvarado Quesada, por favor.
Muy buenos días a todos y a todas. Señor Johnny Briceño, primer ministro de Belice y presidente pro tempore de la Comunidad del Caribe, CARICOM.
Of the CARICOM presidency, Mr. Alberto Fernandez, that is here with us today. Presidents, ladies and gentlemen, members of the CARICOM, as well as the prime ministers and to the presidents of the member countries of the SICA region, Antonio Gutierrez, General Secretary of the United Nations, Ms. Carla Barnett, General Secretary of the CARICOM community, and ladies and gentlemen, vice ministers, dear friends, everyone, thank you. I would like to thank Mr. John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize, for its warm welcome to Belize. I have the privilege of seeing a beautiful country from what I have seen. Thank you very much, John. Also because Belize has this marvelous between Central America and the Caribbean. In our tradition, from our original Mayan tradition, this tradition that has been the British culture from our Afro-American countries, from our languages. Thank you, Belize, for everything that you have given to our region. I would like to take this opportunity to thank and support all the work that has been done by the Secretary Guterres from all the different situations in Ukraine and what has happened in the world, and that this is already impacting all the actions for peace and for to lower what is happening in the world. I would like to make an intervention with the essential elements that unite us and with what we should work on, and my proposal for the heads of states and what we need to do is to ask our teams to work. One, action plans, SICA, CARICOM action plans to be closer together. I believe that there are two essential areas in this. One, connectivity. I believe that everyone have experienced, and we can share in the previous meetings, how sometimes we need to travel to other parts of the world to find a connection in order to reach to our own countries. If we have a closer connection between our countries, we will be able to do many other things. Also, our language, efforts of languages. I believe that the most important area today in what we should be working on together is in our voice, in our common voice. The last report of IPCC of the experts states that CARICOM as well as Central America are for the most vulnerable areas of the world in terms of climate change.
This means, my friends and colleagues, that
Eso significa, colegas,
both
que
Caribbean
ambos
countries and Central
países
America, we
del
are the
Caribe y
most vulnerable in
Centroamérica
terms of
somos
climate
los
change,
más
perhaps in the
vulnerables
world.
en el mundo.
We are one of the regions, the
Somos una de
least
las
contaminant
regiones
there is,
que están
with the
a
worst,
riesgo, con
the
los
worst effects that we
peores
are going to be
efectos que
receiving.
vamos a estar recibiendo.
And yet,
Y todavía, y aún
our
así,
joint voices
nuestras
as a
voces
community, both
unidas
Central
como
American
comunidad,
community and Caribbean
tanto
community,
como en Centroamérica
are
y
not
el
yet
Caribe,
heard
todavía
as a
no
joint
han
voice.
sido escuchadas como voces únicas,
And we
voces
have to
comunes.
do the plans to
Tenemos que
mitigate,
hacer los
alleviate
planes
this situation,
pertinentes para aliviar esta situación,
but in order to
pero
bring
para que
solutions,
esto pueda suceder y traer soluciones,
change is required
debemos
from the
de
20
realizar
countries that
cambios
pollute the most
de las
around the world.
20 países
Those
que
countries are not in our
contaminan en todo el mundo. Y esos
Many
países
of
no
our
están en
countries
nuestras
are in
regiones.
danger
Muchas de
of
nuestras
disappearing
regiones están
because of
a
climate
punto de
disaster,
perder
hurricane,
debido a los
or rise
desastres.
of tides. So this means that our people, the people that we represent, are in danger. We need to join our voice in order for this to change. And I think that's one of the tasks we need to work together. And also our voice is very relevant in terms of peace. Somos una región de paz. El Caribe y Centroamérica es una región de paz, dichosamente. Así que queremos seguir en esa dirección. Mi petición es que dejemos eso plasmado en esta sesión.
State that in this work session, all the support for my support for the UN Secretary General, which is supported by our countries. I would like to thank Johnny and also Alberto Fernandez for being here today. Thank you. Thank you so much, Carlos, for your kind words. Le pediré ahora a Erika, quien representa nuestro presidente de Panamá y tiene la presidencia pro tempore de SICA. Erika, por favor. Erika, please. Muchas gracias, primer ministro, y gracias por invitarnos. Estamos agradecidos por su hospitalidad, su excelencia, mandatario.
SICA, CARICOM members, I have to start by presenting the most heartfelt excuses from my president, Cortizo from Panama. Quarantine and COVID made it impossible for him to be here, but he remains extremely in touch and trying to collaborate as much as possible, because it is not lost on us the extraordinary moment and the symbolism of why we're here. It is not only that it has been 11 years, but there's also something very important happening in the world, something very grave and very difficult. So the fact that 22 countries are coming together cannot be lost on us, and the power and the message that that sends, it's also extremely important. So we need to embrace it and understand. So if you allow me to just share a reflection with you, is what that means and what we do with that power. Because this summit opens two things. One, we go back to normality. We go back to seeing ourselves face to face, to the meetings, to that necessary discussions, as you were describing, long and necessary. And it also sends us back to normality. But as we go back to this quasi-normality, we need to figure out how we're going to focus our energy, how we're going to focus our attention, and think about it now as a way of survival, because there is no margin for error. What we were hearing before, I want to make it even more grave and more profound, because the pandemic itself left us with a terrible toll. Having only 8% of the population, we have, as of now, 27% of death. So 8% of the population, 27% of death. That's a terrible, terrible ticket that we all bear, we all share, and we all need to reflect on it. That and the same, actually, or actually worse, happened with vaccines, as we were all struggling trying to find those vaccines and to get access, unequal access, while other countries were able to provide for themselves quicker and better. And that health situation also sent us into one of the worst recessions, economic recessions. And so as we are trying and struggling now to come out of that economic recession, the situation in Ukraine sends us back. And it will probably do worse, as we were hearing, with the price of oil, with fertilizer, everything that we need for our survival, for our agriculture. So as we're trying to recover, and in this pivotal moment, we need to think about how are we using the power of 22 states here together, and in every single multilateral platform, we can come in as a bloc, and we can set the pace or not, and we can be proxies for others to decide what they want to do with us. So this is an incredible moment, an important one, to set a common agenda. Central America, together with the Caribbean, is unbeatable in this hemisphere. We know it, and we're not using it. The agenda, the common agenda, it is, at the end, the only way of survival for our region. And we need to embrace it and make sure that we come out stronger, more powerful, and recognizing what we can do. We are, as we were hearing, one of, at the end, the regions that most contributes to this planet in terms of climate, yet has some of the harshest consequences. And there are multiple and millions of dollars that are mobilized daily, and they're not coming to our region. Again, Central America and CARICOM together can make a harder bargain for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you. We're grateful to be here. We're grateful that we're hosting, and we try and we strongly suggest, let's think about unity. Let's try to come up with that agenda that we're putting together today, that cooperation plan that will be stronger than we need from that, to make sure that together we go to every single multilateral platform, reaching out with one single voice. Nos toca elegir. Nos quedamos en la política de la indiferencia, enclaustrados en nuestros problemas locales, o nos embarcamos, cohesionados todos, juntos, entendiendo que los problemas de uno son problemas de todos y que la única manera de salir adelante es la solidaridad, pero con respeto, de igual a igual. Una agenda común para todos. Esa es la propuesta. Tengamos fe en nuestra región y sepamos que no es suficiente ni sostenible la prosperidad de solo algunos. Es el momento de llenarnos de una nueva energía. Es el momento de revitalizar a Centroamérica y el Caribe y marcar una nueva dirección. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. I think this is the end of the official opening, so we will be asking our guests to leave. Yes, Minister Courtney?
I think instead of taking the photograph now, we'll do it at lunchtime because hopefully the weather improves.
Yes, I was about to apologize to our guests. We have to fire somebody from the climate change office. They should have had me there to make sure that we have the sun out, but something went wrong, so they did not get the memo. Así que disculpas porque el sol no salió y así que... Pero eso les da la oportunidad que regresen a visitarnos cuando tengamos el sol. Así que vamos a tomar ahorita un break para que salgan los demás y nos vamos a quedar a trabajar. Después vamos a tomar el foto antes del almuerzo. No? We take the photograph after lunch. Thanks. Thank you very much. Take a 2-minute break.